Good evening. How are you? Well, it's another beautiful evening, and I think that makes a difference because the temperature drops. According to Thomas Jefferson, to whom we give occasional homage for how closely he followed meteorology, such as it was in his day and age. So he's reporting through time and space that it's 84 degrees right now, and that the humidity is 56, and those two numbers determine your pleasure index, if you will. And the wind is at 1.7 miles an hour, and I don't feel it at all. There is the most visible corruption and degradation of American principles in how we're handling Epstein, or to be more precise, how the Hall of Mirrors was the Hall of Justice, at least during Bobby Kennedy's tenure, in my opinion. But now we have criminals running up and down the corridors of that building. If you've ever been there, it's a very heavy building, lots of mahogany, lots of marble, lots of statues and things like that you think would make people lift themselves up, inspired to be just. It's supposedly the Justice Department, the department where we do justice, okay? Now, when a defendant says, hey, I'd like to cooperate with you and get some consideration for the terrible and dastardly things I did, then that puts you in a questionable position. Is there a reason to do that? Now, in my own experience, I was involved in prosecuting a large-scale heroin drug conspiracy, and the press called it a French connection because the heroin came from France, the south of France, and in the case that I had in particular, it went up to Canada. The heroin was concealed in speakers and cars and things like that, and they took it from the speakers and they put it in cars. They seduced women to drive the cars down to New York, where they distributed the heroin. So it was considered the French connection because that was the origin of the heroin. And during the trial of this matter, at one point the drug lord offered to cooperate and said it in front of the judge. And I said in open court that under no circumstances would we agree to cooperation with him because of the dastardly, destructive crimes he and others had committed. Now, we have a question that's current. It involves Epstein. Todd makes you want to blanch, who is Trump's past attorney, is a prosecutor at the Halls of Mirrors of the so-called Justice, now Injustice Department. And he thinks maybe we should talk to Ghislaine Maxwell about what she was involved in. Now keep in mind, Maxwell has testified at trials, at depositions. They thought of prosecuting her for her lies, and she's well rounded in her ability to lie and has basically admitted that she will lie. And presently pending are two considerations she has. One is she has a long sentence, and the other is a pardon would be nice. And so, are these the bargaining chips of the Injustice Department? Because it might save the big fat ass of that guy over there in the Oval Office. How about that? And we're going to have his former criminal defense lawyer now at the Justice Department negotiating with her. Could there be more conflict and more corruption in any situation? Well, you know, Trump is always for creating bigger and worse things, and this could be one of them. So the conversation, I imagine, goes like, if you don't remember Trump, we may remember a pardon for you. that's possible. And the argument would be, she cooperated with us. And we never thought Trump was involved. And she confirmed it. A liar who, in consideration for telling that story, gets a pardon on her 20-year sentence. Amazing, isn't it? And she was charged with perjury in the deposition. She was investigated for the perjuries in the deposition she gave in the civil cases. And she's been considered a world-class liar. But obviously, it didn't work on her behalf. And the prosecutor in her criminal case offered her no plea deal. And so, in that sense, it was like my experience in more than one case. But doing it in a large case is a critical one. Are there people that should not be allowed to cooperate and to get consideration? Absolutely. And the trust of their word has got to be right up there. In fact, some of us, myself included, believe a jailhouse snitch shouldn't be allowed to testify at all. Entirely unreliable, particularly uncorroborated. And so, what would I do instead? How many victims were there who are ready and available and willing to testify and point fingers and describe what happened, including what happened involving Trump? And when they see this circus of corruption pull the wagons around to protect the big fat man in the White House, they're going to think twice about whether they should expose themselves. Hey, the people they watch on TV are getting fired just for doing their job. So there's that. And, I'm very tired of some of the experts coming on and saying, talking about this like this is a viable alternative, when we should have flamethrowers against this misconduct. We're out there explaining, well, yeah, they come in and maybe they get immunity for what they're saying, even though we have every reason to believe it's a lie. But if the lie is to cure Trump, well, we could live with that. It's amazing that building hasn't been burned to the ground, given how polluted it's become. I sat in the office that Robert Kennedy used when he was the Attorney General, and I was there with some other officers, and I just cannot fathom how you could let such lowlifes pose as instruments of law enforcement as opposed to instruments of unlawful commissions. Well, here's a little fun. In New Jersey, there's a U.S. attorney. Trump, through his Injustice Department, wanted Alina Habba to be the U.S. attorney. And she was appointed during a break that allows for her to be acting for 120 days. Oops, time ran out. So the judges, as they may, by the order of the court, appoint a substitute, and they did. And then Justice, excuse me, I guess it's a little bit of allergies, I don't know. So Justice fired the U.S. attorney appointed by the judges. And they said, no. You ran out the clock without a confirmation from the Senate. We get to appoint. So suck on that one for a while. Trump's friends on the Hill couldn't approve her. Too bad, huh? The final thought I have, at least that's what I think this moment, as I'm about to say, what I think is the final thought, is those of us who think of the Kennedy Center as illustrative of a nation that is concerned with grace and culture, with the performing arts, with the soul of the nation as expressed by its gifted contributing artists. Now consider that with the fact that there's a new name for the Kennedy Center Opera House, and it is Melania Trump. And I imagine JFK's bust is right near hers. These people are the crudest scum on the earth. They would spray paint a Mona Lisa. They would break off parts. It's just amazing that this nation could tolerate such garbage, penetrating, like some action movie, traveling through all the pathways of all of our structures, agencies, governments. The statue I was looking for was the piety. It is the most beautiful sculpture, most complicated. It actually doesn't make sense if you analyze it, the positions. But it is Mary holding her son. Whatever you think, a mother's love for her son. The bust of a man who was assassinated for how he led the country by one or more conspirators. And we have this garbage in our government. Well, we the people are apparently approaching this with greater strength each day. And now, the nation that can produce coders is upset that there's software to uncover these masked bullies who are running around in defiance of all sorts of laws and rules and requirements for probable cause, and picking up people because they look Hispanic or they sound that way, and they're picking up innocent people. They're picking up citizens. They're certainly not picking up criminals. Is there, in the end, any good act done by this administration? Isn't the daily tension the fact that we're in a storm, and it's a storm of discourtesy and corruption, and every day there is something new and wrong that they do, and they celebrate it, and they cheer each other on, showing how black and dark their souls are compared to those they would compromise. So, anyhow, that's what I think today, and just think about it. There's some things they say, you can't forget once you see it. How about the thought as a symbolism that Melania, who's shown no demonstration of any artistic contribution or creation in her life, should be named for the Opera House? Whistle a happy tune. Until tomorrow, from the Cathedral of Trees, bye-bye.